Good day. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. I am prompted and inspired to talk to you today about what most people call psychic protection, shielding, etc. A lot of my friends and associates consider themselves empaths, sensitive people, and I will start with something very basic, something you've heard me talk about many times, and that is dun 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 healthy boundaries. That it just always comes back down to healthy boundaries. Being able to discern, first of all, your energy from the energy of others. Is this coming from me or is this coming from other people? Is this really my feelings and thoughts, or is this other people's thoughts and feelings of other people and places interfering? And very much like with people, let's say you grew up a certain way and you realize as an adult that you're a sensitive person and that this is happening, that people's thoughts and feelings and so on affect you. And, well, we can even be more basic and more honest than that. People usually become passive aggressive. They'll let themselves be invaded, and all of a sudden, kaboom! Blow up, tell everybody to F off, leave me alone, quit bothering me, blah, 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 blah. Okay, how's that working for you? Probably not so great. Probably not very happy. So what you want to do is keep it from happening in the first place. Have healthy boundaries. Develop the ability to say, hey, if you're going to be around me in my life, I expect to be treated this way. If you can't do that, hit the road. All right, there's a very practical way of looking at it. Same thing energetically. So there's not a person you can talk to necessarily unless you, well, we might get into details of that later. Let's just suffice it to say, in the way of energy and stuff, it's not like you can just tell everybody to quit broadcasting their thoughts at you. You have to do it yourself. You have to be focused. That's what I'm practical, man. I mean, I like cargo pants. That's how practical I am. It's important to, and just kind of the way I think, the way I am is, I always come back to the basics, come back to the fundamentals, come back to what works. It's really not that freaking complicated. So one of the things, like I said, one of the fundamentals it always comes back to is your ability to create and maintain healthy boundaries. So let's say you're working on that. And one of the first steps in working on that is that, first of all, I need to clear all the crap out so I can think straight. Okay, then do that. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to tell the whole family or, whatever group you're dealing with as far as people to just like leave me alone. I need a minute or a day or a few days or whatever to get myself straight before I can have that discernment. Okay, so now back to the more like energetic spiritual aspect. Okay, very common story I've heard many times. There's something in my house. I can even give you a specific example. A woman, this is a long time ago, woman called me and went on and on about this Civil War soldier that was marching in her bedroom and she couldn't sleep. She hadn't slept in weeks, months, on and off, I'm busy. Uh, and I said, well, did you ask him what he wants? She's like, what? Did you ask him what he wants? No. Oh, that's what I would do. I would ask him. And she did. And she basically said, hey, man, you can't be keeping me up at night. You got to leave me alone. And I don't know, I can't remember, it was a long time ago. I don't remember the rest of the story, if it was like if she helped him release from this plane or whatever, you know, he obviously had some attachment to the property. And that brings me to different kinds of attachments. Okay, so I categorize these in people and property. So there's something in my house, it's probably attached to the property. A lot of it's Native American stuff where we live, or like that woman, Civil War. It's an emotional attachment to the place. And oftentimes, you or I or a person, oftentimes it's possible to get that being to move on. Sometimes it takes a little more effort. But I can tell you what I've learned over doing this for over 20 years is it really comes down to your attitude. That's the most important thing, is your attitude. If you are going to walk around your house smudging or doing something to get these things out of your house and you're nervous or scared or not confident, don't even do it. You might actually just piss it off and make it worse. You need to be able to do it with a degree of confidence. You need to feel reasonably comfortable doing it. Period. And like I said to that woman with the Civil War soldier, sometimes you can, if again, you do what you're comfortable with. You might talk to it. Ask it what it wants. There are, it's interesting, it's interesting to me what keeps people entrapped, whether they're living people or ghosts or spirits. It's interesting what keeps them entrapped. But just think of like the things that keep you attached to places and people. Guilt, resentment, things like that. If it's attached to a person, it's, again, I'm just speaking from my experience. All right, I haven't surveyed 100 psychics and see what they all say, or shamans or whatever. But in my experience, if it's attached to the person, it tends to be more personal. And then we really get into what I would call the psychology of it. Okay, what's going on inside you and your thoughts and feelings, your attitude that allows this thing to be attached to you? I don't want it attached to me. I know you don't. But somehow, unconsciously, you're allowing it to happen. And that's something we will address. Okay. So if you have any questions about that part, put it in the comments. Questions are always welcome in the comments. A little bit about what works to clear them out. So you've decided you want it to stop. And here's one of those places where I roll my eyes and rub my eyes and say, I'm sorry there's so much bad information out there. You're going to go on the internet and search how to do this. If you find a technique that works for you, great. And like I said a couple times, do what you're comfortable with. Do what you're confident with. So here's some things I've learned. Smudging with sage or some other plant. So it's a Native American tradition, and I've even read that it might not even have been that big of a tradition with Native Americans, or only in certain places, like the sage grows in the Southwest. Anyway, they would use burning sage, smudge, and the smoke is what energetically clears. And here's what I've learned. Smudging with sage or another plant usually the intention is it returns the energy to a neutral phase, more or less. Okay? So to me, smudging is like the gentle way to say, all right, let's start with smudging, see how that goes. And if it tends, if there's some evidence or suspicion that it's directed towards you, let's say I'm working with somebody and they are just absolutely convinced that their neighbor is putting a hex on their property or something like that, like it's personal from a person directed towards them or people. Okay, we're going to probably use dragon's blood. Dragon's blood, I know you'll be surprised, it's not actually from dragons, but it's a resin from a tree, like pretty much all incenses are. And then if we decide it's serious and we need to drop the energetic nuclear bomb, we're going to use frankincense and myrrh. Maybe frankincense and another resin, but my favorite is frankincense and myrrh. Man, it tends to just get right to the point. I'm going to reiterate here, your attitude's most important. And I will share with you something that I kind of use that euphemism of frankincense and myrrh is like the drop of the nuclear bomb. Well, it can be. When I combine that with doing banishing pentacles of earth, which is a ceremonial magic practice, that is like the nuclear bomb. That just clears everything out. What are the banishing pentagrams of earth? Well, I'm so glad you asked. I first learned this from Deborah a long time ago. It has since become, public and popular. It used to be very hard to learn things about ceremonial magic. Daniel Craig's Modern Magic, Christopher Penzak's Witch's Shield, and if you really want to invest in the subject, this book from Llewellyn, The Complete Book of Ceremonial Magic, it's very good. Lon Duquette and David Shoemaker. On page 360 is where they start. Funny, 360. That's where they start talking about the lesser ritual of the pentagram. They go on to describe where it came from and how to do it. And I'm not going to try and do it in a video sitting in a chair right now. Maybe I'll do another one. But you are using Hebrew and English words to evoke the 4 major archangels in each direction, and it also repeats 4 names of God. So it is going straight to the top of the hierarchy up to the archangels and God, him, her, itself, and bring that into your space. And in this book, they talk about how to adapt this to other pantheons. So let's say you're more into the pagan-y earth magic stuff, you can do that. Do whatever works for you. Me, I'm a practical person. I like what works. I go straight to the top. If it's serious, I'm going to go straight to, I want God and these 4 archangels to just clear it out, and then we can restart and go from there. So that's the banishing pentagrams of earth. And I'm going to encourage you with this one, please go to a reputable source. Don't just look it up on YouTube, because I haven't done this in many years, but I did look it up a few times before, and it's just, to me, it's like slow and painful torture watching these guys do these banishings. Anyway, I gave you 3 sources. This book, Penzak's Witch's Shield, and Daniel Craig's Modern Magic. That's Craig, I think it's Kraig, pretty sure. I've got it over on bookshelf somewhere. Anyway, so that's the banishing that I like. There are other ways, like in the Ascension material by Joshua David Stone. He, which is channeled from Spirit, he uses, and actually, I use this probably a lot more now than I do the banishings. In each direction, you make a cross. You say, so imagine instead of a pentagram, it's a cross with a circle around it. Okay, so you go, in the name of the wisdom, love, justice, and mercy of the one eternal Spirit. Amen. You do that in each direction. And again, the attitude's important. You create that space. I do that in each direction, and then I mentally push it out to the perimeter that I am intending to affect, whether it's a room, a house, property, my personal space, whatever. And if you are inspired to ask for help, I encourage you to choose someone like you would choose a doctor. Go with a personal recommendation. My friend Jane said this doctor's great. I just it's my personal experience, not just anecdotal, that there are people who just don't know what they're doing. Even with the best of intentions, they just don't know what they're doing. And here's why. One of the reasons I think this is really important is because if you go into, like I said earlier about not being confident, you go in here wanting to clear out this whatever's going on in your house, and you're not confident or don't know what you're doing, you might just piss it off and make it worse. So please use your best discernment. Ask for help. And what did I say at the top of the show here? Healthy boundaries. Make sure that is the fundamental change in thinking that most people need to make for this to have a long-lasting effect. I think that's good for today. I don't see any questions in the comments, so like I said, you have any questions, let us know. If I don't address it, one of my colleagues at Circle Light will. Until next time, peace, love, and good happiness stuff.